Hello and welcome to Photoshop for Presentations. I'm your instructor Dan Hood. Uh, this unit we're going to be talking about file properties of Photoshop, and first of all we'll go and look on the work area to quickly get some information about your image. I have pulled up here an image of a desert scene that we'll be using throughout this course for use in the presentations. The first thing that we'll do is that we'll go up here to the tab in Photoshop, and this will give us some very basic information about our document that we're looking at. And as you can see, the name of our document, the photo that we have open right now, is Desert, and is it a JPEG, and we're viewing it right now at 100%, and it is in the RGB color space. Now we're viewing it at 100% right now, but let's say if I were to zoom in, as you can see right here, it changes to 200%, and we are indeed viewing it at 200%. So let's go back and let's view it at 100%, and now you can see that we're at 100%. So that'll change as you zoom in and zoom out, and this can always give you some very basic information here about your document. The other place that we can get some information on the workspace is down here on the bottom left. You'll see that there is an area that tells you, gives you some numbers here, and as you can see it says doc, which is document, and this gives you the file size of your document as it stands right now. So the file size of this document right now is 474.6K in file size. Now let's click that and it'll bring up a box that has even more information in it. And first thing you'll see is that the width of your document, in this case the width of this document is 450 pixels, or 6.25 inches wide, by 360 pixels, or 5 inches wide. The channels, which is the color space, once again, is RGB, and it has 3 channels. The 3 channels being red, green, blue, and that's what RGB stands for. The last thing is your resolution, and in this case the resolution is 72 pixels per inch. For the sake of preparing documents, using Photoshop for preparing documents for use in presentations, we will always be using and working in 72 ppi, because for showing on screens or televisions or through a projector, 72 ppi is the resolution that is needed and is standard for those particular applications. So the next thing we'll look at is a little bit more in depth about file properties. Is another place to get some more information about your document is under the menu item Image. If you click Image and you go to Image Size, we'll see even more information about your document. So as I was saying earlier, this kind of reiterates some of the stuff that we already saw and talked about. Once again, it tells you the pixel dimensions and also the file size of your document. In this case, it's 474.6K, or kilobytes. Also, the width, as we saw before, is 450 pixels by 360 pixels. So that is the pixel dimension of this. Now if you go down here, this shows the document size. So this is the physical size of your document. So as we saw earlier, the width is 6.25 inches by a height of 5 inches. So another thing I'd like to point out is that you can change a few things here to see it in different aspects. So like right now, our unit of measure that we're using here is inches, but you can also open this up and you can change it to other things. You can actually change it to a percent. So right now, as we see it, it's at 100%. Also, you can change it to centimeters if you wish. You can also change it to other different types of measurement, like points or picas, which are used a lot in graphic design or page layout programs. But usually I notice that keeping it in inches is probably the best thing because it gives you the best basis to work off of. Gives you a good idea of what you're dealing with. So in this case, we're going to keep it on inches at 6 1/4 by 5 inches. And the last thing is your resolution. And as you can see here, this is pixels per inch, but you can also change that to pixels per centimeter. But we'll go back to inches, and right now its pixels per inch is 72 pixels per inch. And as I said before, 72 is the standard for using on screen or through a projector or a television when doing presentations, because you're simply using it on screen. It's not going to be for print, so it doesn't have to be a higher resolution. Now, the one last thing that I would like to point out is that now you can change your size of the document. So like right now it's at 6.25 inches wide. Now let's say if I wanted to physically change the physical size, document size of that down to 3 inches. The one thing I'd like to point out is that, see this right here, this symbol right here tells you that these two qualities, the width and the height, are tied together, are linked, and that's what the little chain means. So if I'm going to change, and it keeps everything in proportion. So if I'm going to change this, let's say if I wanted to reduce it down to 3, as you can see, proportionally my height has changed also, down to 2.4. So it keeps everything in proportion. It's pretty important to keep this on. You can turn it off, but I would suggest not, because what it does is that it keeps, as you resize your document or your photo, it keeps everything in proportion, and it doesn't make it it doesn't change the size of it, or it doesn't squish the size or the look of the document. It keeps everything in proportion. So I would suggest keeping that on. So anyway, so let's take that back to where we were at 6.25. This is a little tip, an easy way to do that. Let's say you've been messing with your numbers in here and you want to get them back to where you started. A simple way to do that is in this dialog box. As you're in this dialog box, hold down the Option or the Alt key, and see how this changed here from cancel to reset. So what you'll want to do is I just go reset, and it resets all of your properties in this dialog. So we've reset everything back to the way we had it, and then we can just go OK, and that makes everything the way it was. The last thing I'll quickly show you is that also under the image menu, if you go under mode, this is the different color modes that is available to Photoshop. Like I said, we'll be working in RGB mostly throughout this course, because this is for making images and photos that work in presentations, and presentations work in the RGB color space or color mode. There are other color modes like CMYK, which is used for professional printing, and then index color, which is sometimes used for web. But in this case, we're always going to stay in RGB mode, but I just wanted to point that out. So anyway, that is our short video of the basics of file properties. So thanks for watching.